In a world where kingdoms fall and stars still remember names, this song was forged from magic memory and the dream that refused to die. Welcome to a tale where wonder still breathes. This is the Toymaker's Waltz, a fairy tale of love, memory, and music created by Pacampara. If this tale stirred something in you, a memory, a dream, or a truth, our Ko-fi, Amazon, and Patreon links are in the description. Support helps us keep writing for you and the ones you hold dear. Once in a quiet house atop a hill where the wind hummed lullabies through every crack and curtain, there lived a toy soldier and a toy dancer. By day, they sat still upon a windowsill, painted smiles frozen in time, the soldier proud in his scarlet coat, the dancer poised on one graceful toe. But when the clock struck midnight, when the stars blinked drowsily and the windchime outside began to sing, they would move, not by magic spells or clockwork gears, but by the memory of love carved into their wooden hearts. Each night they danced. The soldier bowed low, the dancer curtsied, with a sparkle in her painted eyes, and in the hush of the world asleep, they spun and twirled, mirroring the love of the Toymaker and his muse, Jess and Yongsun, who once filled the house with laughter, tea, and music. It is said that even long after the two were gone, the toys remembered that the windchime still plays for them, and if you listen closely on a quiet night, just past midnight, you might hear their tiny feet tapping with time in a song older than worlds, a love story told in steps, in silence, and in sunlight. The wind was quieter that winter, as if it had grown reverent. Outside the window, snow fell like powdered glass, snow deliberate and weightless. It settled on the eaves of Jess's little house at the edge of town, a place where time ticked to the rhythm of gears and lullabies. Inside, the world breathed with its own warmth, soft lamplight, gilding wood shavings, tools laid out in constellations, curls of cedar and birch drifting across the floor like forgotten memories. In the quiet home of this world, Jess stood at his bench, fingertips stained with varnish, eyes searching for the soul hidden in the peace of a wind. He was making something impossible, not a doll or a jack-in-the-box, not a music box that played old lullabies. He was carving her laughter, not just any laughter, her laughter, the kind that once made birds stop mid-flight, the children spinning on cobblestones just to hear it again, the kind that had made him believe in God in mornings. And now in the stillness, he needed to give it a place to live, not in a tape recorder or fragile phonograph, something better, something magical, a wind chime spun from glass and cherry wood, from copper string and wishbone that would only sing when she was near. It would sing her own song back to her, because Yongsun, his wife, his ballerina, could no longer dance. He still remembered the way she moved, how the hem of her skirts lifted with each step, like they knew something gravity didn't. Like she had danced in the living room, on garden stones, beneath the rows of tomatoes and green beans. She had danced across summer and stitched stars into every beat. And now her legs were still, trapped beneath her like a wilted wing. She had smiled the first time the doctor spoke words. "Oh, I see," she whispered, as if he'd told her she might miss a train or that train would come early. But Jess had not smiled. That night, when she cried quietly into the crook of his neck, he made a promise, not with words. They had long stopped being useful, but in the calloused hush of his hand against her back, in the silence that said, "I am still here," and that I would give her music again, movement and joy. But now alone in the amber-lit clutter of the workshop, Jess hesitated. The piece of cherry wood on his bench refused to sing. His tools lay untouched. His fingers, steady as clockwork for decades, trembled. What if he couldn't do it? What if the wind stayed silent? What if she never laughed that way again? He leaned back in the chair, the same one she used to sit in when she'd bring him tea. One leg curled up under her. The steam of memory rose and deadened. The first time he saw her dance, not on stage but in the shop, she had come in looking for a gift for her niece and twirled beside the shelves without music, saying, "I like how the toys move when I do." He laughed at then, a startled voice kind of laugh. "You trying to charm me, miss?" he said. "Maybe," she said, smiling. "Is it working?" That was the first time he heard it. Her laugh, bright and unguarded, a laugh that skipped like stones over still water. Later that week, he carved her a tiny ballerina. Not for sale, not for display, just a token. A foot tall, arms out, balanced on one toe with a hand-carved music box that played the Beatles song, "Here, There and Everywhere" when you turn the bass. He gave it to her on her birthday. "You remembered," she whispered, tears brimming. "I always will," he replied. Now the memory seemed to ache more than comfort. Just closed his eyes. He remembered their first real dance that December night years ago, when the town square strung fairy lights between lampposts, and she dragged him in, feet stubborn, heart pounding. The snow came late that night, and the tear, dusting their coats, "Us" and "I love her" spilled from an old man's guitar on the corner. She danced barefoot in the snow. He followed her like a man possessed. Their breath steamed in the air, mingled in the spaces between their laughter. "I'm going to marry you," she told him, as a matter of fact. "You sure?" he had asked, trying to keep pace. "Completely. You move like a shy door, but your heart's open," she retorted. And now that open heart was cracked with doubt. The Windchime, the idea, still lived inside him, but the execution, he felt like a failed orchestra. No harmony, no breath, no sound. And then came the fall. It wasn't the Windchime that saved her. It wasn't even words. It was the moment she tried to stand again. She had insisted that she needed to try, she said, gripping the walker. Jess hovered close, barely breathing. Her legs shifted beneath her like shadows of themselves. She rose an inch, two. Her hands clenched, white for a flicker of a second. She smiled and then she fell. The silence afterward was unbearable. Jess moved, caught her just before she hit the floor, but her face twisted with more than pain, with shame and despair. "I can't." But before the tears could fall, before Jess could even say her name, the chime outside rang. Ding, ding, ding. Clear, soft, and familiar. She froze in his arms. Did it? It played. She looked toward the window. Disbelief and wonder and heartbreak tangled in her face. Why? "I don't know," Jess whispered. "But it sounded like you," he added. It rang again like an answer. A single laugh escaped her lips, part broken and part reborn. "I guess it missed me." That night when she slept, Jess didn't hesitate. He worked like a man, in love for the first time. The Windchime took shape into rhythm with his memories. Bone and bell, glass and thread, mirror and music. He breathed life into it like a lullaby, whispered against her cradle. By dawn it was done, not perfect but true. When she leaned in near it next morning, it sang her name. From then on, the house felt less still. The wind returned, tentative but true. When Yongsun wheeled herself into the garden, the Windchime would sing to her, sometimes shy and sometimes bold. She called it her duet with her breeze. Neighbors swore the chime made them cry, that it sounded like someone remembering love, and still the song grew. Jess began to believe the chime learned from her. It picked up the timbre of her voice, her laugh, the rhythms of her breathing, the rise and fall of her voice when she cried. The bells trembled in minor keys. When she smiled, the whole garden danced, as if it was the world had found a way to move again through her, not just through her legs. And in her dreams, she danced again. In one dream, she was light as a mist, moving across clouds with bare feet that rang like bells. The sky was lavender, stars pulsed beneath her steps, and with each moment, chime, chime, and chime, she wove a melody the heavens followed. She turned, lifted, leapt, weightless. The clouds caught her, the breeze obeyed. Her laughter echoed beyond dream, brushing against Jess's sleeping shoulder, as if to say, I remember now. She told him about it the next morning, cheeks pink. I danced in the sky, she said softly, and the clouds made music. He kissed her forehead. Sounds like the wind, miss you there too. Spring came early that year. The crocuses opened like secrets. Yongsun took her tea outside, but the wind chime rang freely now, even without her near, but never the same tune. Only when she approached it, did it hum like that melody, the one Jess never fully understood but knew by heart. She called it their song. You made the world love me, she said one evening, her head resting on his shoulder. He shook his head. No, I just reminded it. He kissed his cheek. You're the only man who makes me feel like I'm still dancing. Jess smiled, brushing a bit of sawdust from her hair. You never stop, my Yongsun. The world's music just got quieter. They sat in silence after that, watching the petals fall and rise again. In the distance, the chime rang, a soft melodic echo. Here comes the sun. And all around them, the world began again. The epilogue. In a quiet meadow, the color formed honey, where the sky never turned harsh, in the time curved gently like a lullaby. The wind never stopped singing. There, beneath a crown of sun-kissed clouds and wildflowers, swaying like sleepy dancers, the chimes still rang. They were not rusted, nor aged, not forgotten. They hung from the limb of a lone apricot tree at the heart of a hill no one marked on the map. The tree that bloomed year-round, petals soft as breath. The chimes swayed with no breeze at all, responding not to wind, but to presence, to memory, to love. If you stood close enough, closed your eyes, and tilted your heart, right away, you'd hear it, not just the clinking of glass and copper, but the melody, crystalline and golden, drifting like old sunlight across the field. It sang of two souls who loved with the grace of rivers, who carved each other into the world not with stone, but with gentleness. A toymaker who gave his hands to the wind, and the ballerina who gave them her laughter to the sky, and together they became a song, here, there, and everywhere. When the morning light breaks upon this meadow, there are two shadows cast beside the tree, a man and a woman. One with short dark hair and calloused hands, the other with long black hair that gleams like raven feathers, her steps light as wind over wheat. They do not speak, they dance, no music box turns, no soldier marches, yet the world sings. The wind chimes knows its maker. It remembers his trembling hands, his whispered prayers. It remembers the fall, the tears, the laughter pulled from ashes. It remembers the night she dreamed of clouds and danced again, and how he gave her that dream with carved wood and belief. And it remembers how one day Both were gone from the house on the hill, but none from the wind. In the meadow, somewhere between memory and heaven, Jess and Yongsun still dance. Her steps need no legs, his heart needs no time. They circle each other, hands barely touching, laughter trailing behind them like stardust. The chimes sing not to call them back, but to say they are still here, in every petal that shivers, in every breeze that hums. The chimes know love did not end when the Toymaker's hands grew still. It only changed floors. And if you find yourself walking through a field where the sun seems too golden to be real, where the wind carries the sound of joy and longing folded together, where the air feels like memory waiting to happen, listen. You may hear them dancing, not in a ballroom or a theater, but in the wide eternal daylight, feet bare, hearts full. And if you hear the chime whispering that gentle tune, each one believing that love never dies, then you'll know they are everywhere and here forever. Each day, I write and create for my beloved Yongsun, the sun who lights up my every verse, every tale, every quiet thought I dare to share. If her warmth reached you through these words, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep stories that shine.